voiceover. Okay.
Muted. The recording has started.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Live and Straight Outta Parchman. We are back on air, everybody. It's been a long time. It's been a long time coming since we've been online. But we're glad to be back here tonight. So tonight we're going to be discussing the new bill that has been passed and signed in by Governor Tate Reeves that is allowing parole now for certain violent offenses. With me tonight, I have a good friend of mine and a good comrade by the name of John Allen. John, you there with me?
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm with you. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. So first off, I just want to start by saying, what do you think about this new bill? From what you've read about it and heard, you think it's a good thing that they finally done this?
It is. It's overdue. I've been incarcerated now for like the last 20 years, about 18 years now. So they've just been trying to fill the prison system up without releasing anybody, and that's been the problem. So yeah, this is what they did. I think it'd be great for these inmates to get back with their families. A lot of them been locked up way too long.
Most definitely, and I'm gonna read a little bit about what this bill is. Starting off with the opening of it, it says, let's see, let me get to the top of it. Every prisoner who has been convicted of any offense against the state of Mississippi is confined in the execution of a judgment of such conviction in the Mississippi Department of Correction for a definite term of 1 year or over for the term of his or her natural life. The minimum time required for parole eligibility may be released on parole as set forth herein. No habitual offenders shall be eligible for parole. B, sex offenders. Any person who shall have been sentenced for a sex offense as defined in section 45-33-23H shall not be released on parole except for a person under the age of 19 who has been convicted under 97-3-67. Murder. No person shall be eligible for parole who is sentenced for capital murder, murder in the first degree, or murder in the second degree, as defined in section 97-3-19. Then it says, no person shall be eligible for parole who is convicted and sentenced for any of the following crimes. Sex offense, trafficking, human trafficking. It says any offense that specifically prohibits parole release, but that's what this bill is about. It's about some of these offenses that specifically prohibit it. And then what they're allowing now is like armed robbery, drive-by shootings, carjacking. Those are the ones that are getting parole. A person who was sentenced after June 30th, 1995, before July 1st, 2014, of a violent crime, as defined by section 97-3-2, which is the list of the violent crimes, which is robbery with a deadly weapon, shall only be eligible for parole after serving 50% or 20 years, whichever is less. Those persons sentenced for robbery with a deadly weapon, as defined by 97-3-79, shall be eligible for parole after served 75% or 30 years, whichever is less. What's your thoughts on that?
I just listened to you on that. I've met guys in here through my course of time being charged with all those things. My thoughts on it is, I feel like it was a blessing from God, for them to come, bless their heart to pass a bill like this. Because, I mean, personally honest, I got some sense after 10 years of incarceration. First 10 years, I got some sense. Personally, I have a habitual sentence hanging over my head right now, and I'm praying that maybe this bill might even help me. I have a natural life sentence under Section 99-1983 of Personal Offender Statute. Like I said, first 10 years, I got some sense. A lot of inmates do. It doesn't take a life sentence or 25 years or mandatory. Sometimes it takes 10 years for these guys. A life sentence, 20, 50 years and all that stuff, I think that's way too much, too excessive. A lot of guys have changed. They've been ready to come home. So I think this is a blessing that these new bills are going to affect.
Right. Yeah, that's something that I've said, over the last couple of shows. Like, you got some guys that be locked up 20, 30, 40, even 50 years. Like, I met a guy that's been locked up since the 70s. And you would think that after so long, they changed their way of thinking. They reformed from their old way of thinking. And they haven't ever been given a chance until now to actually get out and show that they've changed. I think then it goes on. It says a person between the age of 18 to 25 after June 30th, 1995, and before July 1st, 2014. Persons 18 to 25 at the time the crime was committed after June 30th, 1995, who were sentenced to a term of 25 years or greater may be considered for parole after serving 25 years of the sentence or sentences imposed by the court. No person shall not be eligible for parole consideration under this if they are sentenced for a sex offense, except for a person under the age of 19. Let's see, where is it at? Where it says that they're not even saying. All they say is a person not convicted, a person between the age of 18 to 25 who was convicted after June 30th, 1995 and July 1st, 2014. I'm going to break that down a little bit. They're not being specific right there until they get down to the bottom where they say a person of a sex offense who was convicted under the age of 19. And then they go down to the parole hearing. They say everybody that is eligible, they are required to have a parole hearing, and which, from what I've read in the bill, they have until January 1st, 2022, for everybody that is eligible for a parole date. They have until January 1st, 2022 to have their case plan together for their date, for them to get their parole dates. Moving on, though.
Maybe I can help you, Kyle, before you move on. I remember when that bill was passed back in 95. See, the guys, which was called the 50% law, was in effect then, where inmates only had to do half their time. So once they passed that bill, that 85%, inmates were required to do 85% of their time. So you got the guys that's in prison right now that are up under the old law. So I've seen guys that have done over 10 years where they were going to the parole board and they were steady setting them off and they wasn't letting them out. Okay, when they finally did get parole, they were way over half the sentence. You know what I'm saying? We got guys that did 25 years on a life sentence, and after they finally let them out. And this is right before this bill had passed.
Right. It states here about nonviolent and non-habitual. It says a person serving a sentence who has reached the age of 60 or older, but has served no less than 10 years and 25% of the sentence shall be eligible. Which I can kind of understand that, but then it says 25%, which that's nonviolent anyway. So that, I think that's really kind of unnecessary to really even have that in there. But they go on about the 99-1981 for the nonviolent.
Okay.
It says a person serving a sentence who has reached the age of 65 or older who has served no less than 15 years and at least 25% of the sentence imposed shall be eligible. A violent non-habitual offender who has reached the age of 70 or older but has served no less than 15 and at least 25% of the sentence shall be eligible. Well, but this is where I run into a problem. Okay, there's these habitual offenders that are also violent offenders. Like you have some that's habitual armed robber, some that's just shot at a couple people, this, that, and the third, and they're not going to give them a chance as they would with the regular sentence under the same charge. You feel where I'm coming from?
Right. So there, I thought it was something said in there that it said something between the 1981 and the 87. So what exactly did it mean by that? Does that mean what applies to one applies to all, or do you want to talk about?
It says, let's see here. Any person eligible for parole under this paragraph shall be required to have a parole hearing before the board prior to release. No inmate shall be eligible for parole under this subparagraph 3 of this paragraph. And that would be habitual 99-1983 through 99-1987. As a sex offender, if they was convicted under 45-33-23 subparagraph H, murder, let's see, where is it? And the non-violent habituals and the violent habituals, they're not getting it. But then it goes on, it says, those that are within 48 months must receive priority for placement in any and all programs being education and job training. But it goes back to where I have a problem. They're not giving everybody the same chance.
I'm going to be real, Kyle. I'm going to be real. I know why those laws was put in place. And the reason why society voted those laws in was some of these guys deserve to be here. I've been locked up 20 years now. I finally can admit it. Some of these guys are not going to change. Some of these guys are a menace to society. Because there are menaces in here. Some of them. I said some. You got a lot of guys that take it through the course of time. If time brings a change, time heals things. There's a lot of big mistakes. And that's what I'm so glad about this law being passed, because the guys that have tried to walk a positive walk in life right now, preparing themselves for maybe a miracle that might come. I'm glad they passed this law for them. Some of these guys need to get out and be with their family. However, like the 1999, 1983 statute, it was designed for violent criminals that society was afraid of, and they didn't want them back out there. Some of them have not rehabilitated themselves. That's long the system.
Right. Oh, right quick. Look, John, I'm going to go to the caller. Well, we have a person with their hand up. Caller, are you there?
I am. Hey, it's Sarah Jane with the Parchman Project. How are you?
Hey, Sarah Jane. How you doing, sis?
I'm good. I'm good. You know I can't keep quiet on this one, right?
I know it.
So it's actually very difficult for me to be supportive of 2795. I am happy for those that it is helping. It supposedly is helping 600 people right off the bat, and a total of like 3,000 over time. My biggest concern with this bill is that it is so absolutely watered down from 21-23 last year that the governor vetoed. It's so watered down, and I feel like the governor passed this just to appease DOJ. And like I said, I know it's going to help people. I do, and I have a lot of friends that are in the reentry field, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy to see even a handful of people released, and I pray that this is just the start. And I know we all need to be patient. I know we need to take baby steps, but the last prison reform bill that was passed was in 2014, and that was the 585. So we are looking at so many years from that bill to this bill, and we already know that Governor Reed is absolutely not in favor of letting out habitual offenders, letting out, the violent offenders. And a lot of these guys and ladies have, a harsh sentence now. After 585 got passed, those that are in the gap year, they now have a harsh sentence, which let's be honest about it, it's very unconstitutional. So you're talking about people that have been charged, convicted, sentenced from 1995 to 2014. They deserve a break. They deserve a sentence reduction. But due to the nature of their conviction, Governor Reeves has already said, no, we're not going to let these people out. I'm not going to let these people out. The DAs have said, don't let these people out. The Sheriff's Association, who pay big bucks to, the Republican Party, and I do say the Republican Party. I used to be a Republican. So, it's more the conservatives. I don't want to just say the Republican. It's more the conservatives who fear that if any of these people are released, their community is now not going to be safe. I mean, the state heard the voters' voices with the Initiative 65, and just recently that got overturned. So, what do we have to do? What do we have to do to progress in this state? It's just sad to think that it doesn't matter how you vote anymore because they're going to find a loophole. So, that's the biggest concern right now. And like I am happy. I'm happy for those of, I do know some people who the 2795 is going to help. But, in the long run, it's just, I don't want anybody to not be able to see through the smoke screen, I guess is the way I want to put it. But
Right, yeah. I see, like, from 2014 on up, what about them people that commit to that get the same thing? They're not going to give them a break on it.
Right. And the thing about 2795 is it only provides a parole hearing. You know, we've listened to the parole board say if you have ever been affiliated with an organization, we're not going to let you out.
Right.
You know, and so there's so many barriers. Even if 2795 does help you, there are so many barriers and obstacles you still have to get through just to be able to have a parole board say, yeah, go ahead. So I'm curious I'm honestly curious what it's all going to look like. And I'm not just trying to be a naysayer here. I hope for the best with it, but that's all I got.
Right. Thank you, sis. Thank you, sis. Well, I appreciate you tuning in with us tonight. But well, you know, I will still stand with that. I see why they're doing this though. Like the sister Sarah Jane said, to just to please the DOJ because of everything that's happened within the last year. They've had uprisings, they've had protests, they've had this, that, and all this other stuff going on. And it came down to it to where they had to do something to appease the Department of Justice. So they put this bill together and say, we're just going to let this slide through, but we're, like this Sarah Jane just said, we're going to have barriers. We're going to have all these barriers set up.
Now, I'd like to touch bases with you on something. I listened to her thoroughly, and she's right. She's right. I'm not even, that bill won't even help me. However, there has been a program that's been backed by the governor that has been spreading all through the state of Mississippi, in different facilities. I don't know how many, but they do have a gang renunciation program that they started, and that's to help these offenders make parole, renounce gang affiliation. It's a rehabilitation program. And I think that's going to be very, very, very helpful for the ex-gang members. Some of these guys were ready even before this program, but since I see now what they made it for, it's a good program. That's to renounce gang affiliation. You have to get your GED. You'll be able to get whatever things they have set up. Art classes, all kind of anger management, all kind of stuff like that. So that's, to help these guys have this under their belt when they go before the parole board.
Right. Yeah, as I'm reading through it more in depth, I'm seeing more about having to go through the programs, like getting a GED and stuff like that. And then they have like certain little areas where within the bill, like they got terms and sections and things like that, which you won't really know what you're reading unless you go in and look up what this section is, what charge this is applied to, and this and that. But with these programs, it's a good thing though that they're doing these programs because it's giving these guys a chance to actually to give them a whole new light to see things in. Something else they touch on in the bill. Let's see, I'm scrolling, I'm flipping through it, trying to find it. They talk about a vote. an affirmative vote of at least 4 members of the parole board are required to give an inmate convicted of capital murder or sex offense. So in order to even get a parole hearing, you got to get 4 votes, 4 positive, 4 yay votes. Let's see. That where they discuss the hearings, it says, except as provided in 47-7-18, the board shall require a parole-eligible offender to have a hearing as required in the chapter before the board and to be interviewed. The hearing shall be heard no later than 30 days prior to the month of eligibility. The application for parole of a person convicted of a capital offense shall be considered by the board unless and until notice of the filing of such application has been published at least once a week for 2 weeks in a newspaper or having general circulation in the county in which the crime was committed. They're giving a chance for, like, if you have a victim, they're giving the victim or the victim's family a chance to state if they feel you should be worthy of a parole, but then it says that that's not supposed to have any effect of it, for which, knowing how the state of Mississippi is, they're going to look for anything just to say no to a parole date. Are you there, Brother John?
Oh, no, I'm right here. I'm with you. Hello,
okay,
I'm here.
Okay, I didn't know if it had cut out or not.
I've been listening to you. Even as crazy as it might sound, even sex offenders, and those were the lowest crimes you can come in here with. Even them, if you've changed and you've been here through the course of time, you didn't change. God touched your heart to change, man. Everybody deserves a chance, man, regardless. It should go for them too.
Right. That was like, because since the time that I've been reading it, I see a lot of discriminatory, like with the habituals and the certain offenses that are violent that aren't able to get it. But what I do see though is, like, a majority of these people that have been locked up a long time are either murderer, or sex offenders, or robberies. And which after I read this bill for the first time, I did some research on it, on some of the recidivism, the return rates and stuff of these different offenders of different charges. And to my surprise, the lowest return rate is the sex offenders. They actually have the lowest rate of catching of either violating by not registering or doing whatever it is they did to come to prison. They have the lowest return rate within that area. Whereas the habituals come in with, like, the violent crimes, like the armed robberies, the carjackings, the shootings, and things like that.
I think I can comment on that, man. When you compare the differences, like through the court, through the long haul that I've been here, and the prisons I've met, these different crimes, the majority of the people, the guys that I've met with statutory rape, some type of sex crime, just to say it in short, those guys were white. I'm gonna be honest with you. The guys that were black, you had the statutory, which was majority, where the girl was maybe, they both teenagers, and he was older, she was younger. You had that type of stuff, but I think that the ethnic background is different with those people. You see what I'm saying? Majority of the violent inmates It's like a recycle process, and these are products in their own environment. And by this system, having no rehabilitation for them, it was a recycle process. They get locked up for what they get locked up for. They do the 10, they do the 12, they go back out there in the streets, and they go right back into another hostile environment, leaving one to another. So eventually, it's not that they were committing crimes among people that wasn't their peers. That's majority how it is on a jury panel. You know, the people that you even a jury of my peers. You know, you come from the suburbs or the outer, from the inner, and boom, you judges and find it. You find us being a danger to your community, to your society, and you don't even live in my community.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, that's just how I look at it, how I see it. And I feel like it's the truth. So some of these guys, that's what happens to them. And society say they don't want them. And then another thing I can say is also about the statewide bangers that jumped off. It scared them. So whatever bills that maybe people that was out there trying to help us tried to pass in the past, you know, but you know, it was like, man, those people are violent. They're scared. They're not gonna pass those bills and allow these people to come out and bring that violence out here on the streets or in the communities out here. And you know, that's probably the way they thought. So I'm glad that at least, regardless to what Sarah was saying, which I'm glad she spoke on that and spoke the truth and aired that out. You know, they didn't want to properly do the programs, but I'm glad they did.
Right. Right. And like, which some of these people, like you have like certain staff members at different facilities that they don't care about a person at all. They don't care about you trying to get rehabilitated. They just look at you as another number and another paycheck. Be honest, that's the way I see things. They just see us as another number or another paycheck. They don't care about us trying to get to a class to rehabilitate ourselves or nothing like that.
I have to agree with you on that. Man, how can I say this? You got to look at the background that the officers come from too. I've met some of them that's just like me or you, and they just haven't been caught for it. That's why a lot of the system is corrupt. However, it's like a yin and yang. I feel like it was good to have people from your background that's qualified, didn't have felonies, just able to work here because they treated you better. You know, they kind of correlate with your situation because maybe they have a daddy, an uncle, or a brother that's locked up in the system too. So you know, it was bad, it was good, but then the whole thing is the training is poor. So when you have officers with poor training, they really don't know the importance of anything, what to do other than lock you up and feed you.
Right. Yeah. Like, I'll use an example one time. During the uprising and stuff, you know, they had the whole state on lockdown. And I had a cellmate that he couldn't go home early unless he attended a GED program. They wouldn't even let him get into the GED program to even try to do anything. So he ended up having a flat time out and go home on his tentative release date, all because during the, you know, we was on lockdown, which not all of us could really help that, but they wasn't trying to you know, make the situation any better than what it was.
Well, Kyle, that's what you're going to get when you get officers that's untrained and non-caring. They ain't humanitarian at all. They just like look at you like you said, like your paycheck. You know what I'm saying? So if they lazy and they're untrained and they know you're supposed to go to class or GED or alcohol and drugs, I've seen it all the time. You don't get there and be able to go because they won't let you go. It's like this labor to them is work. They got to escort you. They got to do all this stuff. They're ready to just leave you sitting there. And it's sad.
Yep. I'm reading something else in the bill towards the end, where it talks about the parole hearings. It says any inmate not released at the time of their initial parole date shall have a parole hearing every year, except for inmates for a crime of violence, who will have a hearing no more than every 2 years. For those sentenced under 97-3-2, which would be DWI, murder, aggravated assault, manslaughter, and it's just a long list. But as I'm seeing it, they're saying that you're going to be able to that will only be able to go up for parole every 2 years. To my understanding, from what I'm reading here.
Excuse me, could you repeat that? You said it. Who's only eligible for parole every 2 years?
It says. I'm gonna start from the beginning. I'm gonna read the whole little section they got here. If a parole hearing is held, the board may determine if the inmate has sufficiently complied with the case plan, or that the incomplete case plan is not the fault of the inmate, and that granting parole is not incompatible with public safety. The board may then parole the inmate with appropriate conditions. If the board then determines that the inmate has sufficiently complied with the case plan, but the discharge plan indicates that an inmate does not have appropriate housing immediately upon release, the board may parole the inmate to a transitional reentry center with the condition that the inmate spends no more than 6 months in the center. It goes on to say, if the board denies parole, the board may schedule a subsequent parole hearing and a new date is scheduled. Any inmate not released at the time of their initial parole date shall have a parole hearing at least every year, except inmates sentenced for a crime of violence as defined by Section 97-3-2, who shall have a hearing not more than every 2 years. And I looked up what Section 97-3-2 covers, and it says the following shall be classified as crimes of violence: driving under influence, murder, attempted murder, aggravated assault, manslaughter, killing of unborn child, kidnapping, human trafficking, and it's just a long list that goes on and on of every violent crime there is in the state of Mississippi.
I don't know what to say on that one. I kind of
that's what made me look it up. I really didn't know how I should speak on that, but I see these bills, like this bill itself, it's a contradiction to itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like in one part of the bill, it'll say a person convicted of a crime of violence under this statute can't get a parole date. But then here where I just read Section 97-3-2 shall have a hearing no more than every 2 years. And under that section, there's a whole list of crimes, a whole list of violent crimes.
They want to keep parole. They want to give it to them.
Like that. They what?
I said, it kind of makes me think that they want to give parole, make it sound like they want to give parole just who they want to give parole to,
Right.
right?
They want to be very descriptive about it. But I've been reading this bill
from my understanding, a little bit I did comprehend. I know that before the 85% law was passed in 95, from my understanding, everybody that came up with any type of crime was eligible for parole. You know what I'm saying? Right. From my understanding. Then the law passed, and as long as you didn't have the 1981, which even still as the smaller habitual statute, you just had to do all of the sentences. If they gave me 10 years for house burglary, I had to do a mandatory 10. That was a mandatory sentencing for non-violent people. And then you had the 1983 was the bigger habitual statute for concealed life for guys that commit a crime of violence. So automatically they shut them out. Right. Now I'm knowing already this is what you're reading has to apply the other way. It has to go back down the ladder. So I'm knowing it doesn't apply to 1983 habitual offenders at all. Right. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can sort it out. Right. But it says between June 30th, 1995, and July 1st, 2014, and like you said, at that time back in the 90s, almost everybody except for habitual offenders was getting early release, right? That's correct. Okay, yeah. See, I have a good friend of mine, his dad, he was locked up for like 17, 18 years from the time he was a youth to the time he got older. And he had gotten out on parole, and then when I came into the system, I didn't understand it at that time, but I was like, how did he get parole? And he had an armed robbery charge. And then as I'm learning through doing research and stuff, all these different people had parole at one point, but then in 1995, like with 1994 or 1995, that Bill Clinton had the crime bill, and that took a lot of that out of the system. That's what gave all the mandatory sentences and revoked the parole dates and stuff. Wow, I didn't know that. I was listening to the caller with what she said, and it made me think that they've been doing that as far as like you being gang affiliated or finding some way to stop until they can parole, because that's what it had to mean. I know guys, let's see, just going back 2005, 2006, Unit 32 was the worst, they would consider that like the worst facility of the state. You had gang violence and stuff like that. But even before then, like in the early 90s, these guys were locked up. So you say about 25, this dude about 25 years and still never made parole, and he was under the old law. You get what I'm saying? He just made parole. He was under the old law where he should have still been able to get a parole date. Correct. From my understanding, he just made it out. Oh well, that's a blessing though. Still make it out of here. Give me just a second here. I was pulling up. The name of that bill was actually the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. What that did by Bill Clinton doing that was he was trying to hide all of these violent offenders, like the armed robbery, the sex offenders, the shooters, and stuff like that. It provided funding to the police and pulled funding from other areas, but let's see, statistically between 1991 and 1994, crime had already dropped 10%, and then
after they did that, it rose another 23% after they initiated the 1994 crime bill. So by them doing that, that didn't help anything at all. That really just, if anything, it made it worse.
I agree with you. And
because
that was the whole idea.
You had more people locked up. Then what?
You gotta understand. See, this is the way I look at it. From sitting on the inside looking out. You pass these bills and pass these laws to give a person more time for the crime. Then you turn around. In other words, what I'm trying to say, this the prison industrial complex, I think is what it's called. That's by that time, around 95, 96, 94, 95, 96, that's when you start having all these private prisons being built around the state of Mississippi. So, of course, now you got to find some livestock to put in there to start generating all this $1 million a day business. That's what it is. So Mississippi backfired on them, though. Let me tell you, that's what happened. It backfired on them. So now you got employees, the officers, and people in the community don't want to work at these places. It's extremely overcrowded. But violence. Everything backfired on them. So now they're trying to figure out a way to try to clean the mess up. They gotta change some laws and let some people out.
Right, because they have completely backfired on them. Sorry, I was pulling back up my statistics and stuff. Statistically, when the state prison population grew to be too large, they started trying to release the less serious offenders, which I can understand that. You got these guys with the drug charges that are that appear to be less of a threat, but at the same time, these are the guys that's killing the nieces and the nephews with the drug addiction now.
I still fall back on this. One sin is no greater than the other.
Right.
One sin is no greater than the other. Whether it's the guy that sold the crack on the corner, or the guy over here sold the meth out the trailer park, or a guy over here that killed somebody in the trailer park, and the guy that killed somebody over here in the middle of some urban ghetto in the middle of the state or whatever. It doesn't matter. After these guys have come up here and went to prison, and over a course of time, these people have changed their lives, man. You hear me? You know, it don't take no lifetime for somebody to realize the mistakes they done made. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. Some of these guys deserve to go home, man. Some of them do. Some of these guys have changed, man. I know this for a fact. I've watched the transformation.
Yeah. I've come across a couple guys that they could be locked up because they shot somebody, but over their course of time of being locked up, they really and truly have had a true, sincere change of heart and have changed their ways. They may not be utmost standing Christian or or something of that nature, though, but their mentality overall has changed. They don't think with that frame of mind anymore.
That's right. And institutional conduct and behavior needs to be looked at a lot more. Instead of just look at the overall crime that they're in here for.
Right. And that's something that they'll use against you just to stop you, just because of what you're in here for, versus what advancements have you made to change for the better?
That's right.
And something I'm noticing too. I'm sitting here. Last year we were supposed to have the 2123 that Governor Tate Reeves shot down on the last minute. And I'm sitting here looking at this, and I'm reading it as far as like what they were trying to change and things like that. And 2123 is literally the same bill as the one that we're talking about tonight, the 2795. everything that they discuss as far as case plans, crimes of violence, people going before the parole board. This is all the same thing.
Are
They
you sure
just
about
gave
that?
it a different name.
Really?
Yeah, the name for it last year was an act entitled the Mississippi Correctional Safety and Rehabilitation Act.
Oh.
And then this year they're calling it the Earned Eligibility Parole Act. So all they've done within this bill from last year to this year, they changed up the Senate bill number and gave it a different name from the Mississippi Correctional Safety and Rehabilitation Act to the Earned Eligibility Parole Act. And this is the same bill that Tate Reeves shot down last year.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't. I'm just thinking right here.
Throughout the state, though, they're doing different things throughout the state to try and get these guys to want to change their life. Like at one facility, they may have what they call it, like a bingo, or they might have a movie night, or they might give these guys a chance to go to the gym. But then when it comes to these guys, like these guys that don't want to conform to the rules and regulations, I feel they should just separate them completely from these guys that do want to do right.
I totally agree. That's been a big problem in the whole system in general, where you got the bad apples with the good. So
right.
That's what segregation is supposed to be all about. But when you got a prison system, let me tell you, you got a prison system that their primary goal is to make money. Even though they may be getting money for rehabilitation programs, you got facilities that's staying short of staff and allowing that to be a reason not to give you those programs or give the inmates those programs, gym call, education, even deny health care sometimes because we don't have the y'all locked down. We don't have the staff to escort you or to watch you or to run these programs. That was a big excuse for one facility I know of in the state of Mississippi in particular. But there's been a couple. But that's my opinion on that.
Well, yeah, that's something that I've seen them use. I've been in regionals, and knowing they're fully staffed, they have like all the people they need there to do this or that. They'll come on the phone and be like, y'all can't go to education today. They don't have enough staff up front. There's not enough people in administration to run the education program. Or y'all can't go out on the yard call because of this or that. And we know it's all just a bunch of bull crap. They just don't want to do it half the time.
Well, the money, they put the money for labor, and if the extra money for labor, extra money for anything in their pocket.
Yep. So yeah, it's hard to put the people.
Right. You got a 1,500 bed facility, something like that. Maybe a little more, a little less. They're generating about $1 million a day.
Right, and I'm glad you actually just mentioned something like that about a 1,500 bed facility. They just Tate Reeves, he just signed a bill allowing for the Walnut Grove Correctional Facility to be reopened.
Excuse me, what did you just say?
Tate Reeves, I have to pull it back up, but he just signed a bill, in motion to allow Walnut Grove Correctional Facility for it to be reopened, and it's a 1,500 bed facility.
Okay. This is only my opinion. You only got a few inmates that's in Unit 29 right now. You may have one. You got the death row, I think, and then they got maybe one building of black and whites, I think, out the whole thing.
Right. That would be S building, if I remember that right. L building or S building.
Right, one of those buildings. But that has to get shut down. That place been flamed up. You know, they got to shut it down like they shut Unit 32 down. So now, where are they going to put these guys? These red and whites. You only got a couple of facilities that hold red and whites in the state. So now, we got to open up a whole other facility now.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, it ain't really to, should I say, that's the only thing I can think of. That's what it is. They have to have a word for them.
Right. Well, see, what I was thinking from the get-go with them reopening Walnut Grove was they're going to stick a lot of the guys that's in these security threat groups, you know, the organizations, though is what they call them security threat groups. But I was thinking that's what they was going to do with them. And then another thought entered my mind, like, well, what about all the other ones that's in the security threat group? They ain't going to be able to stick all of them there because they're going to have some black and whites there, too, because black and white, I mean, they practically run a facility.
Right. And then in order to maybe execute their goal to the fullest, they're going to have to open up a facility like that, too, to open up another program. Gang renunciation programs, things like that.
Right, absolutely right. Well, brother, we coming up on that time, and I want to take a second. I appreciate you for being on here with me tonight and discussing this bill with me tonight. I really do greatly appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I appreciate all the listeners out there, y'all. This has been brought to you and forth by the National Plus Coalition as well as the Plus Party. Please always feel free to inbox us on Facebook at the National Plus Coalition or our page for Live and Straight Outta Parchman, which is at Live and Straight Outta Parchman. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, the Plus Party 52. With that being said, everybody, appreciate y'all for tuning in. This has been a Plus production, y'all.